We are in the podcast gold rush era.
You started with Tanner Fox, now you start working with MrBeast.
I have like basically the same 3 questions asked to me all the time. Does he really give away all that money? Are any of the videos faked? Third thing is like, is he nice?
Transcription of all this content can lead to AI finding you better and connecting you with better prospects.
Why is Google a $1 trillion business? Why is it that Meta, the Mag 7, what is it that these social platforms specifically understand about you?
All the apps are using your eyes.
They are, and you consented to it.
All right. So you started with Tanner Fox. Let's start with that. How did you start with Tanner Fox?
So I did door-to-door sales for 5 years.
Okay.
And I thought, this must be my life. It's pest control.
Okay.
Which was kind of bleak. My escape was YouTube. So I'd do my job. I'd knock doors during the summer, and then I'd do the marketing and salesman recruiting during the off season, right? So I'm paying for school for 4 months, and then I'm there in the office. Well, my escape was YouTube. And so I started watching YouTube constantly. So at the time, 2015 to 2018 was vlogs. So YouTube has kind of moved in different chapters. Like what is kind of if there's a bunch of different segments of YouTube, what are kind of the most popular formats, right? Mm-hmm. And so in that window of time, it was vlogs. You had David Dobrik, Logan Paul, everyone's heard of Logan Paul, Jake Paul, Space Station. There were a lot of people that were very consistent at it. So I loved it. I was like, in the back of my mind thinking, I would give anything to be on like one of these cool YouTube shows and not locked away in this office doing pest control marketing. And so one day I realized that there was this conference called VidSummit, and it was basically, you've been to VidSummit.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's very cool.
And it's not VidCon, which is more fan-based. This one is like people that are creators or people in the economy of creators coming together and saying what's working for you, what isn't, keynotes, all that stuff. And I'd heard about it and I was like, man, I would give anything to go to that. But I was more or less broke. And so I thought, you know what I'm gonna do? I took every single day off I had for the rest of the year. And I finished a week's worth of work in 2 days. And they were like, yeah, go ahead, whatever. So I drive through the night from Utah to Los Angeles. I show up at the front door of the event. And I just asked them at the thing, I was like, look, could I volunteer to work here? Just so I could get in.
Yeah.
And they were like, reach under the table, hand me a shirt. They go, yeah, sure, whatever.
No way.
Yeah. So I was like, great.
Wow.
Because it was like a $800 ticket. I was like, I drove here. So I got in there and I started networking and I started talking with people. One of my favorite creators, his name is Sean Duras. And I'd watched him since the Snapchat days, 2015, 2016. Now he's got this YouTube channel and his premise was, we're gonna have the best day ever. So they do a daily vlog in their little company. And I was like, I would love to meet him. And I knew that he was at this event. So I was like, I got to go meet him. So I get in, I volunteer, I'm helping a little bit, but for the most part, I'm just talking with people and I meet Sean Duras. I'm a little starstruck. And I grew up in acting. I grew up, I did a show on Disney Channel. I was on All That.
You did?
Yeah.
You were on All That?
I was like the last season when no one was watching it.
Yeah. I never watched it.
Yeah. I was on Demi Lovato's launch show. So it's like I'd had some proximity to, this, but I was on the front of the camera. And so I started falling in love with this whole thing. And so when I'm doing my pest control marketing job, I'm playing with cameras on the side. So I picked up my first camera in 2017. I'm like, I got to find my way over to VidSummit. So I meet Sean Duras. We connect as, hey, we're Utah people, right? And he goes, dude, when you're back there, look me up. Let's connect. So about 6 months go by. And he reaches out and he asked me to do a couple free projects for him. It's like when you're first starting as a filmmaker, you're doing free projects. You have to cut your teeth on something. Mm-hmm. And so I took every single job that I could get just to kind of learn and get my first 100 mistakes done. So I did a bunch of projects for them and we hit it off. Some time goes by and he goes, hey, listen, this is kind of random, but we have a roster of influencers. That's what we do. We find influencers that have content, they do a really good job. And then we talk with brands who are looking to get that sort of integration. So we're the brokers of those deals. And they go, one of our influencers, his name's Tanner Fox. He's got 9 million subscribers at the time. And he's an 18-year-old with about $10 million in the bank. And he needs an adult in his house. It's like, by the way, he has this like incredible ranch house full of supercars in California. And we've seen your work.
He's 18.
He's 18. It was crazy. And what was funny is like, I've gone since through a lot of mental programming training. Manifestation is kind of the shorthand for it, but there's so much more to it. And after the fact, it occurred to me that, well, you know what? I kind of designed this in my mind. And I would love to be in there, right? And in the process of doing that, unbeknownst to me, I drew that reality to myself because they go, I think you should move into Tanner Fox's house, be the adult there on the ground, and edit his videos.
How old were you?
I was 28.
Okay, you're an adult.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you were like 20.
No, compared.
We need an adult here.
Yeah, no. Well, it's compared to like the 18-year-old stoners running in the house with like millions of dollars. They're like,
Yeah.
we need someone, because at that time they had closed a deal with Hot Wheels, and Hot Wheels had like $5 million on the table.
Wow.
And so they have all these integrations, and it was very hard to get them in the house, the boys, to kind of muster up and get it done and execute at a level, because, you know, I think Mattel owns Hot Wheels, right? So that's a huge company,
Yeah.
right? There's a board, there's a lot of high stakes, and they took their entire budget from television. They go, "This is all the budget we're going to spend on TV ads," and they put it all into YouTube. That was 2018. And they put it specifically into this channel. So the stakes were very high, both for Space Station, who brokered the deal, you know, and for the channel. And so they needed someone to kind of facilitate and move the needle. So they go, "Why don't you move in there and make it work?" So that's what I did. And so I did that for about a year, and it just had the craziest experiences. And from there, I was able to touch base with a lot of different people and kind of make my name in the space. And then that eventually we did a collaboration with MrBeast, and that was kind of how I touched base with their camp, and one thing led to another. But that was my first real big role in the YouTube world.
Wow. What was the most wild thing that happened in that house?
There's lots of them I'm not going to talk about, but one I can.
Just talking parallels so we can get the gist.
Well, so the channel, you know, they're built on, he was like the Tony Hawk of scootering, right? So if you look at YouTube, it's a landscape of firsts. Someone has to upload the first video, and then someone has to upload the first cooking video, right? And that creates a genre and a niche. So there's like hundreds of millions of people today that cannot eat lunch or dinner unless they have a YouTube video pulled up in front of them. This is like cultural phenomenon, right? So it's a big thing, and they like watching other people eat food with them. So that's a genre of YouTube, is like sitting down, filming yourself eating.
Wow.
Right? So the genre that didn't exist at the time was scootering. And so he's like 12, 13 years old, Tanner is, and he's just taking a crappy little camera to the skate park, filming it. And so that started as scootering. Eventually it bled into supercars. So he bought a Nissan GTR in cash when he was 16 years old. Just put $150K, boom, in cash. And so he kind of was the scooter kid with a GTR. So that kind of bled into, right, because channels evolve. So now it's kind of a supercar channel. So one crazy thing we did is we collaborated with a channel called Daily Driven Exotics. And their whole thing was they had Lamborghinis, and they were stress testing them and trying to see how fast they could break them. So that's a whole YouTube channel.
How fast can you, what do you mean?
You just drive them so hard that the Lamborghinis fall apart. So they had one Huracan, and they nicknamed it the tires.
Sounds very dangerous.
It was, yes. Which is where the story goes, because it was very dangerous. And they had one Lamborghini called the Tire Slayer. And I was meeting with Mattel. So I'm in Los Angeles, and I didn't know that Daily Driven Exotics was coming over to the house. So I come home after a long meeting of saying, "Yep, we're going to get them to do this integration. Everything's going to be great. Okay, bye." I pull into the house, and there are 3 Lamborghini Huracans with this big driveway, and they're all sitting there doing donuts and just screeching and blacking out the driveway. And I'm like, this is crazy, right? Because the house is in a very nice neighborhood. Most of the homes were worth $4 to $8 million. And so these folks, they are not in YouTube, right? The neighbors. Yeah. So the reason he was in this neighborhood is there was no HOA, so no real enforcement on how they do or don't bother the neighbors. Yeah. Well, that didn't really matter. Someone called the cops. And so there are 3 Huracans doing donuts in our driveway. And out of nowhere, a helicopter appears in the air. So the local PD had deployed a helicopter, and they spotlight our driveway. And at this point, it's like we have 20 people around our driveway filming. We have all these supercars and just smoke coming out. So the helicopter's like spotlighting, hovering right over us. And we're like, we might get in trouble for this, but it was technically private property. Ultimately, we got away with it because in Temecula, it's a small town. And they're like, we have this psychotic little YouTube kid, and it would probably not be good press to give him a hard time. So we got away with it. But I was just sitting there going, I'm like, I've never had a helicopter called on me.
Because they know that he could blast him on YouTube, worst case. So they were afraid of the PR.
It could be that. It could also be, it's like we like the tax revenue from just having him here. Whatever the decision was, ultimately, the helicopter was there and then not. So it worked out. Wow. It was a pretty wild story.
Okay. All right. So now let's move in. Now you start working with MrBeast.
Yeah.
And you want a house for $1.
That
you didn't even earn. You basically, you kind of earned it. You kind of earned it. You found it strategically, which is earning.
Yeah.
So has anybody ever seen that episode where somebody won a house for $1 on MrBeast, or no? No? You did see it? Yeah. So I watched it as well the other day. My son said, "Oh, I saw that. That's Brady?" I was like, "Yeah." So the concept was he had a house that was maybe a couple $100,000 or something like that.
Yeah, our final budget on the houses was probably $980,000 for like 5, 6 houses. We had 10, but 5 of them we had to let go for reasons.
And he basically said, and it was during COVID, like, or something like that. It was like right after or right during COVID. So people were like a little skittish, right?
Yeah.
And he said, whoever can bring me back 100 pennies first can get the house for that $1.
Yeah.
So you just have to go out and find 100 pennies while people are following you with cameras, watching your hunt.
Yeah.
And there are people going in grocery stores, begging people. There's people asking people in parking lots, what'd you do?
Well, so for context, it was in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
And so if there was no change, right? That was kind of this like weird moment where like there's just no change anywhere. And so the concept of the video is we actually had 5 houses. And so the first one is like we spent probably a month prepping all these houses. So my job was to film them and get the lighting conditions correct and make sure everyone had a game plan. So I just didn't plan on being in this video. I was directing it, the video production of it. And then the 4th house, we'd already given away 3. The 4th house, I'm on a different set working on a different video because I had my team in place. So like everything's fine. And they called me and they're like, hey, we need you over here at this house. I kind of look, I was like, that house is an hour away. Why would I need to go over there? Just come over here. Jimmy wants you here. Okay. MrBeast's name is Jimmy. So I drive an hour and I get on set and everyone's looking at me weird. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but something is. And they take me aside and they're like, hey, listen, I think we're going to put you in this video. And I was like, really? Like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but lock in. Okay, great. So I'm the one that, I'm usually there filming and directing. And they tell me, give my camera to the talent. We call them the boys. And they're like, okay, great, here you go. First person to run around town and find 100 pennies, you will win the house behind us. And I'd spent like 2 weeks outfitting this house. I was like, no way, what is happening right now? So yeah, everyone, me and the other guy running around, he's begging for change. I just ran inside the grocery store. I walked up to the cashier and was like, do you have 100 pennies like in a roll? And he's like, yeah, I do. And so I gave him $1, gave me 100 pennies. I bolted back and Tariq is in the parking lot begging random people for pennies. And I was like, bro, it's in the video. I go, what are the odds of someone having like 100 pennies in their pocket? Like, what are you doing? Go to a bank, do something straight, go to McDonald's. And so, yeah, I ran it back and Jimmy was like, that was fast and counted it out. I won the house for $1. It was weird.
You gave him an actual roll. It was still in the roll.
Yeah. He's sitting there breaking it open. I was like, it's there, count it. And I hope it is.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. So we talked about some of the things that we had learned. And I think one of the things that I found fascinating was his willingness to be very extreme in order to, so he didn't say, here's a regular thing. Now, how can we create an outstanding hook? He said, how can we create an outstanding thing so that we can have an outstanding hook a lot easier? And so like one of them was you had to make $100,000 sundae, ice cream sundae.
Yeah.
Right. And so what was the name? Was that the title of the video? Or like I ate $100,000 ice cream sundae?
Yeah, they've rotated a few times. That's the gist of it.
Okay. So really quick, when you're listening to this, the thing I want you guys to think through is just that, like, are we making videos like everyone else thinking of an interesting hook to start it? Or can we make a really interesting video where an interesting hook would just, it's like, you ever watch a trailer to a movie and it was like not as good as a trailer? Or when you watch the movie and you're like, whoa, this was a good movie. I think that's like the hook and the actual thing. So what was the title of this video?
Yeah, something around, I made a $100,000 ice cream sundae. So such a thing doesn't exist, by the way.
Yeah.
And so when you work there, Jimmy is very adamant about delivering on every single thing that we say. So I have like basically the same 3 questions asked to me all the time. Does he really give away all that money? And the answer is yes. Are any of the videos faked? And the answer is no. I wish they were. My life would have been a lot easier. And then the third thing is like, is he nice? And Jimmy's great. He's just super focused, right? It'd be like working with Elon or Steve Jobs. They're very mission focused. And I've got a whole thing I can talk about that. But the premise of this video was we're going to create the $100,000 sundae. Now that's the top of the video. That's the crescendo. But building up to it, how do you make that interesting? Well, we started with like a $1 ice cream sundae or like a $1 treat. And so we have the boys test it out. And the idea is to build up to this idea. And so like you the whole time you're going, oh my gosh, okay, ooh, $1,000, you know, ice cream sundae in New York City or whatever. Like, what is that like? And you get to kind of see and experience
And that did exist, $1,000
That
ice cream?
did exist, yeah. And we'd go around and like
What
go
was
to
what
these,
was in $1,000 ice cream sundae?
just like really high end, you know, ingredients and just
What
bizarre.
like what would be a high end, like I
Yeah,
can't even think of it.
It's like a distillation of ultimately everything that ended up in like our $100,000 sundae. And so to be clear, we had two different videos. One was like a $50,000 pizza, I think. There's so many freaking videos. The $50,000 pizza, that was like its own video. That one crushed. And we're like, okay, how do we double this and up the ante? Okay, let's do a $100,000 ice cream sundae. And so we ultimately build up to this moment. And the one right before it was a $50,000 steak, I think.
Okay.
And it was so funny because we had someone on set with tons of, you know, PAs and set hands. One of them had been vegan for the better part of 10 years. And we've been building this video for weeks, and she's knowing there's this $50,000 like Wagyu that, you know, is the hardest thing to get a hold of. And she broke veg for it. She was like, I got to get a little
What
piece
a
of that.
sellout.
No,
What
I
a
mean, think about it. When
sellout.
you're going to have that in front of you, you know, you got to
I'm
try
a
it.
vegan, but for $50,000,
But
I might eat a cow.
I mean, you know, and it was, to be fair, it was unbelievable.
I bet.
I wouldn't drop that dough on it, but it was great to just get a little piece of.
Yeah, yeah.
So ultimately, we land on this $100,000 sundae. So the way that we do it is we truly need to have the receipt show that we spent $100,000 on ingredients, because there's nowhere where you can go to a store and buy that. So it was like, okay, well, what's the most expensive way of accomplishing this? Because that's the way that we operate, is we go, whatever we anticipate this video making in terms of YouTube revenue, we need to spend slightly above that. So we're always in the hole. We're always in a deficit on YouTube videos, because we know that whatever that extra margin of something that we hadn't thought of, if we can spend the money on that, it's probably going to make the video incrementally better, just on the margins, and it's worth it. And that's the whole way that they operate. And then they offset costs with brand integrations. Jimmy's got a lot of different diversifications and investments, and so the channel just crushes it. But with that one, it was like, okay, well, there's strawberries in Japan. If we get the most expensive strawberries in Japan, and we send somebody first class to go get them, and then that person gets the strawberries and flies them back in first class with like strawberries in his lap. Okay, great. That's a $12,000 ticket. Okay, so if we make a caramel sauce, but it's like we cook it in a $40,000 bourbon, great. That's a $40,000 way to hit that ultimate $100,000 goal. And so it's a lot of different things. Okay, the cream that we're going to make the ice cream out of. First off, we're going to have ice cream the size of this table, right? And it's going to be the most beautiful, expensive. And this was all like production stuff. So I mean, I kind of got the cliff notes on it. My job was to film it, capture it, work with creative. But the way that they did it is they just found the most creative angles and considered what nobody else was considering. And then ultimately led to the best ice cream sundae that I've ever had. But it was that consideration that Jimmy put in production, he put it in camera, he put it in creative, which was, what is it that you haven't considered? What boundary have you yet to push? So the reason I named my company Biggest Agency is because most people are very comfortable with getting a number on the board. Mm-hmm. So when you start to actually think big, you're considering things that you hadn't ever maybe considered. And so it's not just a number on the board. You're like, hold on, I can push that idea further, which is hard because you're like, I don't know, I got something. And most people just roll with something. And so when you start thinking bigger, you're typically working with someone else, right? You outsource it. In this case, like you're working with us, right? So the level that pushes it to the umpteenth degree, where you go, I've visited this idea 20 different ways. I've intersected it in every possible dimension. And I go, I think I'm finally on the biggest version of it. Learning that from Jimmy has ultimately bled into how we approach podcasting, how we approach media and content. And it's alarming to see that most people are not willing to go that extra mile and take a little bit of extra time, consider something that no one had considered before. And if you do it and it's like, yeah, okay, well, it's like a 5% marginal difference. Like, yeah, but that's the difference.
Yeah.
You know?
And one of the things I think I heard you say, or maybe after, because I never really studied anything about MrBeast until after I had dinner with you. And then I'm like, wow, Brady's so smart. I learned a lot from him. Well, and then I started, we're going to get into some of the stuff you taught me. So I started watching and studying what he was doing. I watched a video of him breaking it down. And one of the things that he said was, it's a lot easier to get one video that does 1 million views than to get 50 videos that get 2,000 or whatever that math was.
250, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Like it's a lot easier to just get one. So he said, how can we, instead of having like a bunch of videos that rack up like a little bit of views, how can we go, like, what can we do once a month or once a week that would get a lot more? Because it's really about the views. It's not about how many likes you get. It's not about how many like total like posts you have. It's about how many people are watching and engaging with your thing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I had even just like while you were talking about the Sunday, I'm thinking like, okay, how can it start out where it's like, we're gonna do squats, but we're gonna do it while, and it's like thinking like what could be the most wild thing that would be like, okay, I gotta see this. Like,
100%.
okay, we're gonna go ahead and do lunges, or we're gonna be on the sled, but we're not gonna just do it this way and then zoom out, and then you're doing something wild. And I'm having a hard time with that second thing only because I'm doing my best to listen to you at the same time, but my brain's already like coming up with ideas. But I'm thinking like that would make me want to watch. And if there's branding for the gym is throughout that thing, on the shirts, on the bottom of the video, if it's mentioned, I feel like that would stick a lot more than just like, all right, so today we're going to talk about 3 different types of macros: proteins, carbs, and fats.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a different way of thinking around that. What do you guys think? You guys kind of see the angle to that? Like, how can we, and that would separate you immediately, which is what separates him.
Yeah.
Right? It's easy to make an unboxing video or a reaction video to another person's video, which is crazy that those are getting viral. Like, here's me watching a rap video and pausing it to talk about it.
Yeah.
He's actually doing crazy work to make things happen. Now, one of the things we talked about at dinner was the way the algorithm works. This is where it gets super weird and interesting. You were mentioning how all the apps are using your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
They are.
And so,
And you consented to it.
and you go, what?
You consented to it and the terms and conditions on every app. The moment you open your phone, move into it, all that.
So what do you walk us through that? Because that to me was like, whoa, when you talked to me about it.
So they have, the smartphone revolution has changed the entire way our species operates. You know, and it's like, yeah, you zoom out, that seems kind of obvious, but it's also so routine for us now that we don't really think about how that works or why these platforms understand us so well. So specifically with advertising, right? Like, why is Google a $1 trillion business, multi-trillion-dollar business? You know, Google Ads is a big part of that. Why is it that Meta, you know, the Mag 7, what is it that these social platforms specifically understand about you? And there are estimates where if you've been on the internet since, call it the year 2000, there is something like 10 million pages of metadata and information about you, primarily in Google servers, but it's really everywhere. And so your front-facing camera specifically, when they started launching phones that had the front-facing camera, they were designed to track your eyes relative to the XY axis on your phone. So Androids have an option where you can have like an XY axis, so wherever your finger tracks, right? So that was the finger tracking. The next level of that was inferring where your eyes and your pupils, where they are relative to the distance your phone is from your face, and figuring out, okay, you're probably looking at this pixel on your phone. So that was kind of the V1 of the whole thing.
Wow. So it knows how, based on how far you are, what you're probably looking at.
Yeah. So your front-facing camera, you guys have probably seen it before. People break this down. If you use like an infrared sensor, like you can use an infrared camera, you'll see that every 5 seconds, your phone is taking a picture of your face.
You guys heard that before?
And
Pretty interesting stuff.
It's the craziest thing because our eyes don't see the infrared spectrum, but there's certain like pretty cheap commercial devices that do. So every 5 seconds, there's a photo being taken. And in part, that's to verify, hey, you're still the right person using this phone, getting access to the apps and having all the permissions, right?
Because if you're not the same person, it'll stop logging.
No, I mean, generally speaking, you'll still be, let's say your phone's unlocked, right? And you hand it to somebody else, it's not going to log you out. But if you try and open your banking app, right? Now there's a secondary layer of verification. There's a handshake there that says, hey, wrong face, nice try. But that's the ground working layer of why that's there. And they go, okay, well, how can we use this? Because if you sign into Facebook, create an account, right? You are agreeing to all the terms and services, which is that you are giving carte blanche access to your microphone, your cameras, and they are able to use that data in a bunch of creative ways. And, you know, it could be, hey, I'm trying to make a post right now. So, oh yeah, take photo. But when it's not for that purpose, it's everything else. So the reason where we're leading to is advertisements use this data to get your ads way more qualified for you. So as an example, if Mike's on Facebook and your front-facing camera has been able to measure over time, Mike responds to ads that are yellow. And we know that because of his pupil dilation whenever we serve him a yellow ad. Or 55% of the ad has predominantly yellow colors, or 30% of it, for Joe, if it's a hot lady in the video, he has a 75% click-through rate. So now they're going to go, okay, well, across all of the ad partners that, let's say, Meta has, how many of them are serving up ads that have a hot lady in it? We know what we can put in front of them. And it's like, yeah, sex sells, but there is now much deeper layers and more sophisticated qualifying that happens. It's like, okay, well, hot lady plus 3 different colors of blue in this shade will lead to a probability of them closing at like 40%. And so they'll do that and put the right ads in front of you, because at the end of the day, these platforms, you're not paying to use them, meaning that you are
the product.
You are the product. And this is like, that may seem kind of, I don't know, like Terminator, like a little nihilistic, or just like it's kind of bleak, but it's not evil. It's not good. It is what it is. And these are how these tools are just leveraged today.
And you said if you were to block the front-facing camera,
Yeah.
what happens?
After a while, it just kind of, all your apps will stop working well. For one, because they're constantly verifying, hey, that's you. But after a while, they also don't like that they can't really track how your behavior is. So there's a patent for the television back in, I want to say it's like 1950s, 1940s, whenever the patent for the television came out. And in the actual line, the description of the patent, it is described as a type of mind control or brainwave changing device. And so you kind of notice that, right? Like if you're at the doctor's office or something else and there's a TV on, there is that tendency to kind of zone out a little bit on it, right? You're at a restaurant and there's a TV and the game's on. It's in part the content, but also it's in part the light, the frequency that's coming off of that. And so that frequency has been understood to hijack components of our brain and our attention span disproportionately to, say, a tree, nature, anything else. And so along that has come a whole bunch of advances and developments. And blue light specifically. Blue light is a whole rabbit hole you can go down for a long time. I normally wear orange glasses for that reason and try and filter out blue light, but it's not natural to us as a species. But blue light is what your screen emits. Blue light puts you in a specific type of brainwave state. And blue light allows you to be the most receptive to suggestions, to ads, to really any data or input. So that's why they say, hey, if you're trying to go to sleep, don't be watching TV like right before you go to sleep, or stay off your phone, or put warm mode on, right? Those sorts of things. These are all like base layer, I'm talking like elementary understandings that all of this infrastructure was built on 15 years ago. So, I mean, the real bleeding edge of it is like beyond what I understand, but it's all there.
That's bizarre. Okay, so now when we talk, we got a lot of businesses in the room that are, gyms, service-based businesses as well. Talk to us about YouTube. Would it be advantageous for me to get my gym on YouTube?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I look at it in a few different ways. I look at it in the context of what's happened so far in terms of, let's call it the attention economy. So let's say it goes back to the Gutenberg Revolution, right? So the printing press. That might be the most advanced for the time attention economy, kind of step forward. Up until that, it was people maybe shouting from a tower or something, right? But now you have printed material, you can circulate it. And so now the attention economy is predicated on who can get access to the printing press, who has information, the ability to read or write, can they get their words and their information circulated? That was kind of the baseline of the attention economy. Over time, that scaled up and it went to television, radio. I think magazines are a very interesting parallel to YouTube, and here's why. You can go to magazines and see the most niche down topics. So you've got, amputee tennis players in Ohio magazine. And it's just like this extremely niche thing intended for a very specific set of people. Like there's so many magazines, and YouTube is an extension of that, but at a much larger scale. So the reason you want to take YouTube seriously is, for one, YouTube is owned by Google. Google also owns Android. So most people in the room, how many have an iPhone? Show of hands. So it's most people, right? So you go, oh, iPhone kind of dominates the market. Well, they actually don't. The majority of phones in the world, smartphones, are Android. In fact,
in the world, not in the US.
Not just in the US, but 70% of smartphones in the world are Android, meaning they come pre-installed with YouTube. So the whole world is coming online. And the more that 4G towers and eventually 5G get installed across the different countries, the first thing that people get is they get onto this massive video platform. Now, you may not find a ton of leverage in having your video pop up in Ethiopia, but the attention and the intent behind it is getting your name, your message cemented across a long span of time. And so you do that by consistently posting over a long period of time. Now, there are different platforms and each platform has different rules, but I would say TikTok, for every 100 followers you have on TikTok, it's worth 1 YouTube subscriber. So the way that we rank it is that different platforms have different types of returns. So TikTok has a very ephemeral nature to it. If you get on TikTok, you're very rarely going and searching for that one account and trying to get to watch that video again. You're going to watch it one time and move on. But YouTube has a much higher return probability. And so people are going to go back and watch a video from 6 years ago. It's just the way that the platforms are tooled or the way that people interpret it and understand maybe the intention. So YouTube has an incredible ability, for one, to take that 10 million pages of metadata, understand the viewer themselves, and get the right video in front of that viewer because they understand, hey, that person's on.
Yeah.
And so if you can create enough of an interesting catalog, enough of a compelling narrative around you, your gym, or anything else that you plan on talking about, and you can do it well enough over time, YouTube is going to go, oh, you actually solve a problem that this person is searching for.
Yeah.
Because YouTube on the other side of that coin is Google.
Yeah.
So they understand this thing pretty well.
I have a similar outcome, like as far as my answer. I think YouTube's very important. I just think it's more important now than it was 6 months ago or a year ago. And I think it's going to be more important in the next year or 2 years than it is today by a lot. So right now, I don't know if you guys have tested this, but if it was like 6 months ago, what you would have to do if you wanted YouTube to, if you wanted ChatGPT to analyze a video, you would have to go to YouTube, click on show more, click on transcript, copy the transcript, and then paste it into ChatGPT and say, give me a summary. Now you could just take the URL of a YouTube video, pop it into ChatGPT and say, tell me a summary. It literally can do that automatically for you. And if you have Operator, even more, it can dial in and say like other related videos to that channel, which is incredible. That's ChatGPT Operator, which I don't recommend anybody necessarily need right now unless you're building apps and stuff. I got it because I'm interested. Yeah, I just need to know what's, yeah. But here's the interesting thing. If you think about content, I could talk about my business for over and over. I mean, Laurel, you could probably talk about alloy. Let's say you were like the belief of alloy. You could have a whole video about that. Now you'd be like, yeah, but who's going to want to watch that? It's not about who's going to want to watch it. It's about who's going to want to know the information about that when they're searching online. Tell me about alloy. And ChatGPT can now grab that information from the internet. It's easier to talk about your business for a long time, right? Yeah. And not worry, because how many people are going to go to YouTube and search alloy personal training? Probably not that many, right? Or especially alloy personal training Scottsdale or Greyhawk. Not yet, but like the point is, it's like, hey, if I can go, you know what? I'm going to make a video and I'm just going to talk about alloy personal training, what we do. I'm going to make another video and talk about, some of the people that we've helped. I'm going to talk another video about how alloy uses in-body machines. I'm going to make another video, I'm going to think of everything that can lead somebody to get to me when they're on ChatGPT and they're in Greyhawk. Yeah. And they go, hey, so I'm looking to, improve my body fat percentage, improve my metabolism. Where can I go near me that can help me? Oh, Alloy Personal Training actually has an in-body machine that'll check your basal metabolic rate. They actually just did a seminar called the Metabolic Booster, and this is what they discussed, because we can upload that seminar and we could say this is a seminar that we just did. So I think the big opportunity is how much content you could just talk about. And then allow ChatGPT to have more content to grab, because your competitors are probably going to be very late to that party. So ChatGPT is so much better than Google in theory of what it's going to be, because of what it crawls and how it responds. It's more of a human than a machine. And so if you were my, let's say, assistant, and I would be like, hey, Brady, here's the deal, man. I need to boost my metabolism. I want to get in better shape. Can you just help me can we just make sure it's the right one? Like, just whatever you do, make sure it's the right one. So you're going to look online. You're going to say, okay, who's working with metabolism? Look to see this gym doesn't even talk about it. Maybe it's not them, because if they're not talking about it, it can't be their specialty, right? But this one, I don't see anything on their website about metabolism. You kind of keep going, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this one talks about, this one talks about, and they do the in-body thing. Oh, and they actually help with macros. Even though the other gyms probably did all that too, I would be willing to bet like a third of them probably had in-bodies and they could do all that stuff. But if you're the only one talking about it, you're the only one doing it. according to the person doing the research, which
Yeah.
in this case, the person is ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude, or not Claude, but like Gemini, right? So I think the big advantage for YouTube is the ability to create a lot of content that could be transcribed and be extracted
Yeah.
to be able to produce a result in your favor. There's already people getting leads. We have gyms getting leads from ChatGPT. A lot of Rumor gets leads from ChatGPT, which is why I invested in that company earlier today, the AIO company, because I know that guy, that's the new SEO is AIO.
That's literally it. The thought comes to mind is SEO has up until now been like, hey, like how many blogs can you get on your website? Because that's going to index you higher. There's enough keywords. So when someone searches, increases the probability.
Right.
Everything has changed now in this AI landscape. And so one advantageous move to get on YouTube is definitely to like saturate that landscape so that your gym, your brand, whatever is optimized so that a LLM can go scrape it and optimistically find you across a spread of bunch of other competitors. I think so. You say specifically YouTube, and it's like YouTube's amazing, but that's kind of that's just the platform. That's where you put stuff. The thing that we're really bullish on is the podcast format.
Yeah,
and
we talked a lot about that. A
lot about it, right? And we're on a podcast. So there's a meta to that, but there's a reason that our company has stopped doing video production for really anything else other than podcasts. And for one, it's going to allow you over time to index better in LLMs. But two, it is going to probably be the medium that is going to have the best life and health in terms of being able to, for one, outlive the competition. But two, you're going to be clipped faster. You're going to be searched by it faster. And the reason podcasting, everyone's noticed this year, it's like, oh my gosh, everything's changed with podcasting. Like, what is that? It's three main things. It started in 2020, and you like started yours in 2016. So you did it before it was cool, like way before it was cool.
That's because I'm uncool.
That's another guy.
I just did the uncool thing, which would lead to it. I just got lucky later on.
You were advantageous
because I did it. I did it not to get to this level. I did it because I had clients that we were driving a lot of leads for them.
Yeah.
They would be like, I would have this group, this camp of people that would be like, these are the best leads. Oh my God, you have no idea how amazing they are. And then we would have this camp that would go, the leads suck. They're the same. And the difference is when I used to be able to listen to the calls because they were all recorded.
Yeah.
This group's actually dialed in, and this group here doesn't even, first of all, they don't even call the lead sometimes.
Huh.
And so we were like, okay, what we need to do is create a training portal on how to be better in sales. So we created a training portal on how to be better in sales. And guess what? The people that didn't need the help were like, dude, your videos are amazing. The people that needed the help were like, I already know what I'm doing. I just need the leads to be better. So it was like opposite effect. So then I'm like, all right, what do I do? And I thought maybe I'll do the cool kid factor. Because like when you were in high school, you dressed the way you dressed likely because the cool kids dressed it. Like there was a style that was like understood. This is like what nerdy is and this is accepted, right?
I was homeschooled, so I mean, I was in pajamas.
You were probably the trendsetter, right?
Yeah.
But like if you think about it, if you were in high school, maybe even now, somebody says, hey man, I'm having a party, you should come. What's the first question out of your mouth?
Who's going to be there? Probably, right?
Who's going?
Yeah.
Who's going to be there? Why do you care? Because that's going to let me know if I want to be there or not, right? And so same thing, those slang that you choose to use, the music that you choose to listen to was that. So I was like, you know what? If I can get gym owners that people wish they had that life, oh wow, they're running their business without having to be there and they're making a lot of money. Yeah. If I can have them come on the show, and then I can have them, I already know because they're the only ones watching the damn training videos. If I could have them say, I'm always learning. I'm always reading, right? So I go, hey, so now you have a successful gym. You're doing 7 figures. Like, does the learning stop? Like, you already know everything. Oh, no, man, I know nothing. I'm going through your training videos. I'm doing this. And then now I can take those videos and send it to the people that thought they already knew their shit. And now those people started watching the videos and we started helping a lot more people. So the reason I created the podcast was a way to convince the ignorant that they were ignorant in the thing that they didn't understand. And this way they would be able to go, okay, I want to remove that ignorance and add some intelligence into this process. That's why I did it.
That was before the case studies.
Huh?
That was before there were really any case studies too. So you're kind of operating on like theory. You're reading the conditions on the ground. You're like, that would probably work.
Yeah.
And now that's like well understood. So that's pretty ahead of your time. Anybody really, no one did that. That's wild. So, before, what changed since then is, for one, it was the pandemic. Because the main way that people got their information was not podcasts, it was mainstream media. But during the pandemic, there was so much fear and uncertainty, and people were like, I don't feel like I'm getting the full picture.
You went more to Joe Rogan for truth than, Fox or CNN.
Yeah, and it was kind of a slap in the face to the main, like, well, we're the experts, we're the authority. You're like, I don't know, that guy has the patent on the vaccine. And I get that he's talking to a UFC guy, but like I'd like to hear his take with no ad breaks, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was the first real mass adaptation arc to podcasting. The second one is when AI started taking off, because people went, oh my gosh, I'm seeing AI slop everywhere. I'm kind of fatigued on it, you know? And now I'd like a human conversation, right? Like there's something, that's why this live podcasting format works. And it's why people listen to podcasts. They just want to connect with people. You put it on autopilot, teach me something or entertain me, right? Theo Vaughn, right? Comedy, flagrant. The third thing is that, you know, this may divide the room, but like it or not, Trump won the election because he went on podcasts. He didn't really go on CNN. He went on Theo Vaughn, Flagrant, Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan, and he allowed himself to be seen in an unfiltered, unscripted capacity in like a really vulnerable way.
For hours.
For hours. And what that does, to your point, why you did that for the leads that you were pursuing or the people that you were working with, is because if people can get to know you in a long form way in this one-sided relationship, they're going to pre-qualify themselves either as, yes, I want to work with that guy, or over time, it's going to nurture them to at least wait for the right opportunity where that overlap happens, right?
Yeah.
So in our company, we describe that as developing a one-sided best friendship. So everyone has like their favorite YouTuber now, or like their favorite podcaster. And if you saw that person in the street, you'd be like, dude, oh my gosh, like that's Joe Rogan, low-hanging fruit, the king of them all. And you would feel like you know him. He has no freaking idea who you are, but he appreciates that dynamic exists, and that is the magic of it. Because like, yeah, you see Tom Cruise, you think you know him, you have no freaking idea who Tom Cruise actually is. He's an actor, but you can't hide who you are in a long form capacity over time.
Yeah, over time, the truth reveals.
Over time. And it's like in that format, you can convey a lot of information, not just in what you're talking about, but who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And so like for a lot of people, they're like, they had one conception or another about President Trump as an example. Whatever their feelings were prior to listening to, say, a 3-hour episode, they had to re-underwrite their opinion a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they heard him talk. He's got a rant muscle. That dude can like go on, I do the weave, you know, I do this, I go back and forth. But, you know, for the most part.
Wait, do that again?
The weave. It's huge. We know the best weaves. People come to me, they say, sir. But the reality is like you get to know them differently, right? And so that really did shape the outcome of it. So how does that relate to, say, businesses leveraging podcasts in 2025? For one, YouTube is the best place to do it. Apple more or less pioneered podcasts, but they left a lot of opportunity on the table. It's kind of weird. They didn't really do much with it.
You know, it was interesting. So in 2021, I really stopped focusing on the podcast as much. I still did it, but it was like checkbox. Like I did it because I knew I had to do it.
Right.
And maybe some of you still have like things that you do in your business where you're like, you don't really put as much effort into the thought behind it like you used to. And around 2023, like the end of 2023, Patrick, my VP of Ops, he's like, hey man, I really think we need to double down on the organic. That's when we did our best. That's when we had the most people coming in. And I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like, you know, it's exhausting. And like, I guess the reason I thought it was exhausting was because I felt like it wasn't working as well as it was. I have energy for whatever I believe is working. But if I don't believe it's working, it's exhausting to me. And so he's like, dude, I think it's a lot. So I get on GSDCon. We had a stage and there were like a couple hundred people in the audience. It was like a people event. So there was a lot of people there. And I said, people is one of our themes. So it's leadership and all that. Yeah. And so I go, hey guys, just curious. And I did a survey. I can't remember. I made up a reason as to why I was doing it, but the real reason I was doing data collection, so you guys know. And I was like,
surprise.
Yeah. I was like, just curious, how many of you guys heard of me through my podcast before you actually joined? Like how many of you guys listened to the podcast before you joined? And like 90% of the room raised their hand. And I was like, I looked over at Patrick and he goes,
yeah. Shout out, Patrick.
I'm like, all right. And then, you know, what I started doing was I started creating audio versions and video versions. So whenever my team was dealing with issues, challenges with existing members, and I still do this now, challenges with existing members or challenges with prospects, I would create a podcast about it, like quick 8 to 12 minute audio or something like that, which would be value to any listener, but it would also be able to be something for them to send to that prospect. Since then, we've had a few gyms now that have created podcasts just to be able to create some sort of outreach other than, hey, just wanted to give you a call and follow up and see if you're still ready to get after it, right? Like such a boring way to follow up. It's like you're following up like every gym. Hey, just want to see if you're still ready to get after your goals. No, that's why they didn't call you. So what they do instead is, you know, like, hey, Lindsay, Just wanted to let you know, I remember when we last spoke, you were really working on finding a way to get more time in your day. We had somebody I interviewed one of our members that's super busy, just like you. And she talked about some of the changes that she made in order to really free up her time and how it's helped her. And now it's not, hey, I'm following up to see if you're getting after it. I'm actually providing value. And I made that episode, just like when I first made my podcast, to be able to help Lindsay and other people like Lindsay that would be like that, that may not have committed to the gym membership because they didn't have the time. But really, they just didn't think through how to make it happen.
Yeah.
And so they're like, dude, it's great. We're actually just like, we're setting these things instead of getting ghosted by following up the same ways. We're being like, hey, I thought of you. Hey, this thing came up. Hey, I remember you said you wanted to lose fat. So we use our notes and we send them out to people based on that. So that was pretty cool because it's like 5-6 minute audio. You don't have to do video or anything.
It's pretty clever.
Yeah.
And people get to know you that way.
Yeah.
You know, like the way that this is all going to shake out is that the nameless, faceless brands, the JCPenney's, the Sears, who's the face of those freaking companies?
Yeah.
No one. Like, I don't know them. And it's like, that's a place I buy stuff. That's it, period, full stop. But when you get to know goofy examples like Papa John's, you know, like I saw the guy, I don't know, he's in the commercial. That's kind of, there's something to that, right?
Yeah.
And so over the way that time is going to go, where there is this bizarre overlap between D2C and having a business and the way that people are consuming content, the more you let people see you from the top, the more they're going to feel interested in the thing that you provide. So my favorite podcast, we talked about this, is the All In podcast. My team knows on Fridays. Anyone heard of the All In podcast before?
Very good podcast. If you guys haven't got a chance to listen to it, it's a very good podcast.
It is the #1 podcast for a few reasons. For one, it started in 2020, so it's pretty brand new, all things considered. It is 2 billionaires, 2 centimillionaires, and they are from the venture capital space, but they built a bunch of different businesses. And during COVID, they were locked down. They had nothing to do. And so they just went, let's do a Zoom call and let's talk about the pandemic and legislation and see how, you know, Operation Warp Speed is responding to it. And people got really interested in the perspective of 2 billionaires and 2 centimillionaires.
And now they talk about all types of topics.
And now it's everything.
Investing, philosophy around it.
And one of them now is in the White House. He's the AI and the crypto czar. And so in the 5-year span, what happened was they were able to allow their opinions to shape narrative and culture in Silicon Valley because they were just blatantly themselves. But they owned all of these companies. They were worth tons of money and had all of these success stories. What's bizarre about the podcast thing, and I think YouTube is the best place to deploy a podcast, is that over time, if you can create a persona, a brand, and understanding around you, the best way to do that is podcasting, by the way. You can grow that in parallel to whatever business you're growing. And that will feed one and that will feed the other. And over time, you will do that consistently, and you have to at least do 100 to start figuring out what you're doing. But if you do it consistently, people will start to fall in love with you and develop a one-sided best friendship, and they will begin to trust your product, service, brand, whatever it is, so much so that even if it wasn't a good fit for them, if they're not ready to get after it, listening to you, that might actually change their mind, as opposed to, like, I don't know, an email or something. So we're super bullish on it. It is changing everything right now, and we are in the podcast gold rush era today.
Love it. All right, so big takeaways for here before we round out. Number one, we want to make sure that we think about new ways to do our content. How do we create something that's different than everybody else as opposed to the same as everybody else with like maybe a more engaging hook? So that's one thing that I got, and I started like immediately thinking, and it was difficult for me to focus because I was game planning while thinking. Yeah. So that was number one. Number two is thinking about YouTube and the benefits outside of what most people would assume are the benefits, which is just like growing a channel. It's more so that and the podcast actually both had the same opportunity where the transcription of all this content can lead to AI finding you better and connecting you with better prospects. I think that's the best part too. It's not just more people, it's more of the right people, because they're saying like, oh, this is a match, right? Like this is based on what you're looking for. This is exactly the company you're looking for. So I think it's really good for that. And then also even thinking about the podcast as a whole and just saying like, how can we use this to be able to be friends with our people before we even get to meet them and build a more relationship on trust.
Yeah.
People do business with people they know, like, and trust. They can't trust you unless they like you and know you. And so this is a great way to get there.
Amen.
So, dude, I appreciate it. Guys, round of applause for Brady. And for everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Well, there we go. And we'll see you next time.